Welcome to Minister Norma Foley and to Minister Josepha Madigan here with us today. And again, thank you for your update this morning, Minister. Again, I'd also like to wish over 2,500 Leaving Cert students well who are sitting the repeat exams, which is fantastic, and to the 60,000 students who've received calculated grades. And I mean, it is tribute to the ministers, the department, the officials, teachers, parents, everyone coming together on getting over 1 million students back to school. It is phenomenal. I suppose in my own area in East Galway and Roscommon, I've spoken to principals, teachers, and I'm aware that there is anxiety, and particularly on overcrowding. And the questions that I might pose for you here, Minister, and also for Minister Madigan too, to meet the 25:1 teacher-pupil ratio in Irish schools, we're looking at over 1,065 teachers, if I'm correct, will be hired, and of those 400 in special education. How many of those teachers are in place, or I suppose the timelines for when they will be in place in the schools? And another challenge, I'm aware from our own school in Ballinasloe out in Korea that they would have 28, 29 in a classroom. And the question is, you have another teacher. What about the classrooms? Where are we going to put, where's the space for these students and for these teachers? When it comes to DESH 1, to DESH level 1, I mean, we in Ballinasloe and East Galway are the only ones in County Galway with a primary school at DESH level 1. And I suppose the pupil-teacher ratio didn't apply to DESH schools. I know they're at a lower ratio, but I suppose will these schools also be considered for the support and help that they will need, especially when dealing with children with high level of complex needs? In terms of disadvantage, I mean, community and support groups across the country are seeing a huge need for food packs to families. I'm particularly interested in the school meals programme, and particularly, I suppose, within the social inclusion unit within the department. I know this is cross-departmental. It would also be with the Department of Social Protection. But can I ask what steps have been taken here? And I suppose in particular, I'm thinking of secondary schools in DESH areas, in very much public deprivation areas, that are seeing a huge need for their students in terms of food, lunches, breakfasts and so on. Principals are at breaking point, and as you mentioned in your start, Minister, teacher wellbeing and teacher wellbeing supports, I'm very happy to see that. Can I ask what other administrative supports are perhaps been put in place to support principals in this time, in a really stressful and challenging time? And also, if I could ask just on the rollout of the school inclusion project. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy. Just in relation to the DESH Band 1, just to acknowledge that, as you have quite correctly said, that there is a reduced pupil-teacher ratio within the DESH system. DESH Band 1, and we have reduced the pupil-teacher ratio this year. In terms of DESH Band 1, where it is currently at 24:1, it will reduce by 1 to 23:1. In relation to the junior and the vertical school, at the junior school it is at 20:1 and it is at 22:1. And as I confirmed last week, there is a package of measures being put in place for DESH schools, and consideration in relation to a reduction will also apply there. But the finer detail in relation to that entire DESH package will be announced imminently, rather than giving a specific date, but we are working on that. In terms of, you're quite correct, in terms of the school meals programme and all of that, that's to be extended this year. That is across departmental with the Department of Social Welfare. It's a programme of which I am a huge fan, and the maximum uptake that we can get on that and the maximum rollout of it, I would be hugely supportive of that. In terms of teacher wellbeing, considerable resources, I suppose, really have been put in place in terms of acknowledging the burden that is placed, in the first instance, as you have mentioned, in terms of principals in the schools, and for that reason, to teaching principals, the additional day was being provided. Equally so, there are other measures in place where we've had Spectrum Life has been employed to offer resource and support to teachers on the ground. Equally so, we're working towards a webinar that will facilitate school leaders, but equally so just to acknowledge that in terms of health and wellbeing webinar, there was previously something in excess of 17,000 members of school communities who actually engaged with that. So I am very conscious of that, and that's a facility that is available to the entire school community and not any one particular sector. In terms of the reduction in pupil-teacher ratio and the impact that will have for schools in terms of accommodation and all of that, very conscious of that, but I think it is hugely important, and there has been a huge push towards a reduction in the pupil-teacher ratio, because I think it can only advantage the pupils and indeed advantage the staff who teach there as well. But in relation to that, there is a very substantial build programme moving ahead this year, irrespective and despite of, and I suppose in spite of COVID, 740 million in terms of additional accommodation, and equally so to acknowledge, I suppose, that substantial works were already done in schools terrifically by school communities in terms of accessing additional space within the school, and the minor works grant facilitated quite an amount of that, and there's been another allocation of minor works now, 55 million between primary and second level schools in the next number of weeks as well, towards the end of December. So, the additional accommodation that is required, I'm conscious of it, we're working towards that, but I do think it's a very positive plus that we will be looking next year at a reduced pupil-teacher ratio. And in relation to the school inclusion model, Minister Madigan might like to take that one.
I'll be very brief, Chair. First of all, just in relation to the pupil-teacher ratio for special schools, that is enhanced. There are about 3 medical special schools and 3 attached to CAMS, and the 114 then are for children with special needs. The school inclusion model, the World Health Organization has always said that schools are best placed to have an inclusive type of education because they have the existing management structure already in place. And this budget is the very first budget that we're in a position to roll it out nationally. We did the pilot in 2 community health organisation areas, so now we're going to be in a position to do it in 3. It's sort of a wraparound tailored suite of therapeutic supports for children with special needs, so occupational therapists, speech and language therapists, crisis behaviour practitioners, and really it's about putting the child at the centre of education.
Thank you very much, Minister.